In an oversized master bedroom, how do you set up the furniture layout so you avoid an empty feeling in the space? Hi everyone, it's Carol from Discover Interior Design, and I'm so glad you're here. Well, that's a comment from a wonderful viewer who was finding it maybe kind of challenging to plan the furniture layout in their spacious master bedroom. And that's a really wonderful type of bedroom to have because we have a lot of space to work with. But at the same time, that can be a little bit challenging. And sometimes we have to kind of think of things maybe in a different way. And so I have some ideas to plan out the furniture layout of your master bedroom, as well as other things that we may not think of when we want to bring everything together. So let's get started. So one of the first steps that we want to do is just to look at our room. And from this starting point, we are kind of assuming that you have your furniture already. If not, you would want to measure your space and take a look at your space and see where furniture may be located and looking at the size and scale of this room, because one of the nice things about having a large master bedroom is that we can purchase and look for furniture that's bigger. So if you haven't done that step already, just take some time to take some measurements in your room and then go out and look for furniture that's going to make sense with the size and scale of that room. And when you have your furniture, what we want to do is take a look at the space and break it down into different zones or areas. So one of the first zones that we want to set up is our sleeping area. And this is where our bed is, and nightstands, if you have nightstands, and anything else that would be a part of that grouping. And this is a very important area because in a master bedroom, I think we want our bed and that entire grouping to be the focal area. We want that area to really grab our attention. And so we really want to take time to decide which wall will make sense to place that bed. And it may be more than one option. Maybe there are two walls in your room where the bed may work. What will help you make the decision on which wall is going to make more sense is first looking at the size and making sure that your bed and other furniture around your bed will fit there. And then think about the view. So when we walk into the master bedroom, it's nice if we can see the bed right away. We can really see that focal area. The other thing to think about is where you place your bed, what you want to be looking at while you're sitting up in bed. Maybe it's a beautiful view outside. Maybe it's having a TV on the opposite wall. But just take some time on setting up that area first. So right away, just by setting up that area or having in mind where we're going to place our bed, it's starting to kind of fill up the space in a way already. Then we want to look at the other areas of the room. We want to find other wall space that will make sense to place other larger pieces of furniture. What we want to keep in mind when we are finding other areas to place other pieces of furniture, we want to think of how is that going to start to balance out the room a little bit. We will notice that our bed and where that entire grouping is, where our bed is going to have a lot of visual weight. We want to try to balance out the rest of the room. There is probably not any way to make it totally equal in the entire room, but when we take some time to place other pieces of larger furniture in the room, in different areas of the room, it'll help to create a better balance. And when you have a nice, large, spacious room, we are going to probably find more opportunities to place other pieces of furniture to kind of fill in the space. And one thing that you can think about is if you have, say, a corner area, or maybe you have a nice bay window sort of area, or maybe you even have a fireplace in your master bedroom. Well, those are nice areas to create a seating area. After deciding where we're going to place the bed and everything that goes in that grouping, and the other areas of the room where we're going to place other pieces of furniture, right away, it's filling up the space because we are filling it up with what's called positive space, things that are actually physical elements like furniture, and it fills up some space. The other part that's really important to think about with any room in our home is also we need space that we could call empty space, but we call this negative space. And that means it's just intentional space that we need to leave open. So with a master bedroom, there's a couple things to keep in mind. One thing is that we need to create relatability. So when we have a grouping of furniture, say over at our sleeping area, our sleeping zone where the bed is and the nightstands, we want to make sure that those pieces of furniture are close enough to one another so it all relates as one entire group. We need to leave some wiggle room, a couple inches in between the nightstand, say, and the bed. But we want to make sure that everything is close enough so that we can access things on the nightstand, but also that that entire grouping, all of those different pieces of furniture are considered to be in one entire group. Or if we have accent chairs, we want to make sure that the accent chairs are close enough to one another, or they are relating to, say, a fireplace. Because if they're not close enough to one another, or they're spaced too far apart, that's where we can notice that there's some empty space, that the space is not being used efficiently. So take some time to make some adjustments so that an entire grouping looks like an entire group, that things are relating to one another. The other thing that we need to keep in mind in having a more spacious master bedroom is that we want to make sure we leave plenty of room, plenty of empty space, negative space around the furniture, because we call this clearances, and we need to make sure we leave space around a bed so it's functional. So we have plenty of room to get in and out of the bed, say on the sides of the bed. Lots of times the nightstands provide that sort of space. How far out from the bed the nightstands are placed, that's usually just enough space for us to get in and out of the bed. The other part of the bed that you want to keep in mind is at the end of the bed, especially if there is a walkway in front of that area. You want to make sure that there's plenty of space on the end of the bed, or maybe there's something opposite the bed. So you have a chest of drawers or a dresser. Then in between that dresser and your bed, you want to make sure that there's plenty of space in between both of those pieces of furniture. And the other important empty area that we need to set aside are pathways. So when you are deciding where to put your bed and deciding where to put other pieces of furniture throughout the room, keep in mind those pathways. So we need to have pathways so we can easily move from one area of the room to the other. We can move over to the other side of the bed, or access a window, or walk over to where the accent chairs are, or walk in and out of the room, or access the bathroom or closet area. We need to make sure that there is plenty of space to do that. One thing to keep in mind with an oversized, spacious master bedroom is that we want to leave plenty of open space, because we want to make sure that there's some breathing room in that area. So one thing that you can think of is lots of times I mention to leave a pathway that's, say, 36 inches wide. But in an oversized master bedroom, maybe you can leave 48 inches, because that way there is this balance between these large filled-in spaces and then a balance between some open areas. After you have decided where you're going to have your sleeping area and where you're going to place your chest of drawers, or if you do have space for a seating area, then you can kind of step back and assess your space again. And you can ask yourself if there are certain areas in the room where it just kind of looks kind of empty, that you feel like there needs to be something in that area to kind of fill up that space. And there are a couple ways that you can fill up these empty areas. One is to look for a nice large scale size of a plant, a floor plant, something that's tall and wide. Another idea would be to place an area rug under your bed. But before you maybe make a decision and go out and look for all of these different items, I want you to take some time to look at what else is happening in the room. And what I want you to notice is what is on the walls. We may not think that looking at the walls and noticing what's on the walls or what's not on the walls is going to impact how our room is feeling put together or not. But it plays a big role in that, because we want our eyes to be drawn up to the walls as well as to the rest of the room. So if you find an empty area in one part of your room, it's an empty wall, instead of buying a new piece of furniture, can you place a beautiful painting on that wall or a group of paintings? And right away, when we place something on the wall, it gives us the sense that that space is filled up a little bit more. And then look at the rest of your room. Are there other opportunities, other open wall areas where it might be nice to display artwork or mirrors? When you are thinking of window coverings for your room, think of using something like draperies, because when we hang draperies on the walls around our windows, right away we're drawn to the beautiful fabrics, but also it fills up some space on those walls. One other thing that you can think about doing is, if you feel that your room is still very open and maybe too open for you, that's where you could think about using maybe a deeper wall color. And that will help to bring everything in just a little bit more to create more of a relatable feel to the room. And when you are looking at your room overall, where your furniture is placed, what's going on the walls, it's also important to think of those final touches that add layers to our room. Think of your bed. You want to take some time to look for some beautiful bedding. You'll want to take some time to add some beautiful accessories maybe on your dresser. You'll also want to think about lighting in the room, making sure you have beautiful lighting, whether it's table lamps or hanging pendant lights next to your bed. Maybe having a floor lamp next to an accent chair. Making sure that you have light from the ceiling. Maybe this is where you add in a beautiful chandelier in the center of your room. But making sure that you have different layers of lighting, because lighting and shadows helps to fill up spaces in our room. In fact, we want to leave some open areas for light to reflect off of, to bring back more light into the room, whether that's natural light or artificial lighting. When you're planning out a spacious master bedroom, take your time when you do this. After you place your furniture, live with that for a while. Then if you notice there are certain areas or maybe one corner of the room that needs something, then instead of just going out and buying a new piece of furniture, maybe we could just place a piece of artwork over there or a beautiful tall plant. Just kind of think outside the box so that we create variety in the room, as well as kind of filling up the space in a different way. And just take advantage of the spaciousness of the room, that there's going to be a balance between some nice open areas as well as areas that are filled up. So just take your time when you plan everything out. And I know it will work out and really look beautiful and inviting when you do that. So let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.